Hello everyone. For anyone who's been paying attention this week, you've seen that several DSA candidates have been elected in Democrat primaries, and because of the districts they were elected in New York and in Colorado for Milat Kiros, uh, it's very likely that they're also going to win in the general election, which proves why it is so important to vote in primary elections. As primary elections are typically much more lower turnout, you have the more extremist candidates winning, and then they'll win in the general election, especially when we're talking about districts where they'll vote blue no matter who. It doesn't matter how awful of a candidate they are or not. And that's why I really want to focus on Milat Kiros, especially since I'm a PhD and she's a PhD student. So I have some specific criticism for her, especially looking at her origin story. For everyone who doesn't know, even though she's currently a PhD student, she also has a law degree. And part of her villain story is that she got fired because she demanded her law firm, which is one of the largest law firms in the country, to take a stance on the Gaza-Israel war. Now, people, let's be realistic. When's the last time that you have heard a law firm take a political stance on anything? Law firms do not publicly comment on this type of thing because they don't want to potentially alienate any potential client, because for them, as you know, with lawyers, they also, if they decide to be a criminal defense attorney, they're defending murderers. That's the reality of the sector. Your job is to defend your client. So typically, they don't want to alienate people who could potentially pay them to be their client. And what's concerning for her is that while she's a PhD student, she could still potentially be working as a lawyer, as she claims that she needs to pay off her student loans, but instead she chooses to be a barista. So wake up, America. Someone who makes a bizarre choice like that, someone who, with a law degree, could use it as a shovel to pay off her student debt, instead is choosing to pay off her student debt by using a little espresso cup and sprinkling a few dollars in order to pay off her student loans. The earning potential is insane. Yes, understandably, if she's a PhD student, she could only work part-time, but at the same time, as a lawyer, she could potentially make so much more an hour. Hundreds of dollars an hour, but she chooses to be a barista. And we think that she's a good fit to be a leader of the country, someone who makes a choice like this. And then let's move on to the fact that she's a PhD student, yet essentially supports policies that'll never work. As a PhD student and then eventual PhD, she's supposed to learn critical thinking, which ideally should already be taught during undergrad and a master's degree. But at the very least, you have to take this very seriously during your PhD then, which clearly she's not, because if she would examine her policies, she would realize how much they clash. For example, she supports abolishing ICE, but then supports free healthcare. So, in her proposal, the US really shouldn't have immigration controls, should just allow anyone in, and then we're just magically going to be able to pay for everyone to have health care, no matter if a large part of immigrants coming in then don't have any qualifications to actually enter the job market, need other financial assistance to pay for bills, and then on top of that also get free health care. And instead, her solution is just tax the rich, just tax the rich. Okay, but the problem, as we've already seen in the United States, is that the wealthy move to lower tax-paying jurisdictions when you have these proposals. Look at New York. People have been fleeing New York. Look at California, also with a proposed wealth tax. Well, people are leaving California. This isn't anything new. And if it comes down to it, where if she tries to make national legislation, and it seems that she's on the track to being successful, well, people simply leave the United States then for other lower tax-paying countries. That's the harsh reality, is that she thinks, oh, we'll just make the wealthy pay for it. She thinks the wealthy in the United States is just a never-ending purse that she could keep on dipping into to pay for all her wants and desires, and not realizing that you need to balance a budget. So, really, what is she learning in her PhD program? Because she should have a little more critical thinking skills to realize that she really needs to be a bit more thoughtful about how her proposals need to complement each other. And instead, in her mind, it's just radical everything. Be far left on everything, and somehow it'll all just magically work out by taxing the wealthy. Okay, but the problem is she's running to represent Colorado, which has already seen over 100 companies since 2019 leave the state, resulting in over 11,000 jobs lost. And last year, for the first year in quite a while, Colorado saw a net job loss. So people are starting to leave Colorado the more that they try to increase taxes and regulations on businesses. And she doesn't have any proposals to how to turn that around. She's just going to simply accelerate job loss in Colorado. But this is who gets elected when people sit out elections. So individuals, will you finally participate in primaries to do your job to block candidates who simply know how to scream, be loud, but don't know how to actually pass legislation that will truly benefit voters? Because that's the problem with Kiros. She just knows how to scream, knows how to say slogans that sound good, but in the end, it'll never work out. So, America, wake up. Will you learn to start participating in primary elections?